a little bit. You want to just get all the moisture off the surface of the chicken since we've been brining the chicken so that they're going to roast instead of steam in your oven. So we've got them all nicely dried off, including on the inside. Okay, and you want to use a paper towel because it's going to get your other towels all grungy. And then before we truss the chicken, you're going to put some salt and pepper on the inside, freshly ground black pepper here, and some kosher salt, because that's hard to do once you truss the chicken. The reason you truss the chicken is to just sort of keep the thing under control as it's roasting, to keep the legs from spreading out like crazy as it roasts. So we have some kitchen twine here, or butcher's twine, and you can get this at your Williams-Sonoma or your basic cooking supply store. And the reason you want to use butcher's twine is because it doesn't have any chemicals in it, because you don't want those to leach into your chicken as it's cooking. So we have about 3 yards, I guess, of twine here. And what you do is you take the middle of the twine and you put it around the top of your chicken. You wrap it underneath. Have the legs facing you. That's the important thing to remember. Legs are facing you. Wrap it underneath like so. Okay? And then you cross it underneath. You put the ends underneath the legs like that, and you cross it, tie it. Okay? And then you bring these ends back underneath the legs. Okay? And you'll see they sort of fit under the joint there. And then you tie it. You tie it fairly tightly to keep the legs together. Okay? And then you tie that in a knot, and then you cut off both ends. Okay? And then you sort of chop the ends off, make it a little neater. And there you have your quick truss chicken. Okay? And then what we want to do is we want to put a nice even coating of salt and pepper on all of the sides. Crust of salt, essentially, to form around your chicken, so it'll cook nicely and have a nice, give the skin kind of a nice flavor, and really just sort of a salt crust, essentially. So we'll turn it upside down to salt it first, and dry our hands off so it's easier to salt. A nice high, it's kind of hard to tell with the camera there. I'm going to sprinkle from up high here. Okay. A nice rain of salt, essentially. Alright. Nice even coating of salt. Alright, and then we'll flip it over. Actually, before we flip it over, we'll salt the side here, because that's hard to do when it's flipped over. Okay, and I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but chicken's nice and dry, so the salt is going to make a kind of a coating instead of just dissolving into any water that's on the skin of the chicken. You want to pull your chickens out of the brine, about an hour before you want to cook them, because you don't want your chicken to be super cold when you're cooking it. So now we're finishing up our salting here. Try it with the other hand. There we go. They're smoking already. We're going to add a little bit of canola oil to each one, just enough to keep the chicken from sticking. Okay, and then we'll swish that around a little bit. You know the pans are hot because the oil moves very freely. Okay, we'll do that for each pan. And then we are going to add our chickens on each pan, and we're just going to sear them very briefly and then throw them into our 475 degree oven. So here we go with the chickens. And we're going to position the chickens we actually want the legs to be backwards. Let me try that again. Legs to be backwards because we want those to cook more. The way I position the pans is with the handles so that I can put the pan in the oven and the legs will be facing back in the oven. So those have been searing for about a minute. We are going to go ahead and open up our oven and take each pan, place it inside the oven. Okay. And take our other chicken, place it inside the oven, and there we go. Here we have our chickens that have been roasting for about 40 minutes. We're going to pull one out of the oven, and you can see how nice and brown that is. And we'll check the temperature on that by sliding our instant read thermometer into the area between the thigh and the breast. Let's see if we can get a reading on that. The lamp's kind of bright here. There we go. And it's showing about 155, so that's perfect. We want to pull these out because as the heat sinks into the chicken, it's going to roast even a little bit more to get it up to 160. Sprigs of thyme in each pan. There we go. And then we are going to ladle a little bit of chicken stock into each one, some warm stock. Ladle that into each pan to deglaze the pan. And it'll sort of absorb some of that aroma of the thyme as it's doing so. Okay, so our chickens are just going to be resting to absorb some of that heat for the next 10 minutes. We'll put them under a heat lamp in just a second. Okay. "40 minutes and rested for 10. We're going to cut off our trussing strings here. Gently take those off. And we're going to serve this in 2 portions. So we're going to slice it down the breastbone, like so. And then we are going to slice it off the backbone, like that. Okay? And there's 2 ways you can serve this. One, you could serve it like that, sort of as a whole half chicken. You generally want to cut off the wing piece. We could serve it like that. All right. Instead, we are going to cut off the leg here. Okay. And then what we're going to do is try to separate the breastbone from the meat, and of course this is super hot still, so this is going to be hard. Okay, and so we've got our breast meat here, and we can go ahead and we'll plate that like that. Okay, and then we can go ahead and add our leg meat there and throw on a wing if we like. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And then we'll go ahead and top that with some of our juice from the pan. We've got our chicken here. We're just going to take some of our pan juices that we deglazed the pan with our chicken stock, and you can see that nice, rich, thyme-infused sauce and how beautiful that looks. And